Welcome to this session. Today I am going to take up a lesson from English textbook for class 11, Hornbill, chapter 4, Landscape of the Soul. It is written by Natalie Trouberoy. Let us first understand about the author. Natalie Trouberoy is an art historian. She holds a degree in Chinese art and architecture from the University of Belgium. She admired natural and organic paintings drawn by the artists in India. She has drawn pictures of cities and medieval art in Europe. She tries to combine both history and architecture in her form of art. She knows different languages and she has translated Dutch to different European languages. Now let us begin with the lesson. This lesson is an excerpt from Landscape of the Soul, Ethics and Spirituality in Chinese Paintings. This particular lesson is slightly abridged. It is edited. Today we shall journey into the world of art. The aim of our sojourn is not just to appreciate artistic creations, but their philosophical dimensions as well. This piece cites examples of various painters and tries to remind us that making art is not just about patience and practice, but is also about discovering its spiritual and metaphorical aspects. As we go through the text, please notice the following expressions and try to infer their meaning from the context. The words are anecdote, illusionistic likeness, delicate realism, conceptual space, figurative painting. So, when I am discussing the text with you, please open your books, page 34-35. You will come across these words. Try to gather the meaning from the context. So, let us begin with the lesson. The author begins with an ancient tale about the painter Wu Daozi, who lived in the 8th century China. His last painting was a landscape to decorate a palace wall. It was commissioned by the Tang Emperor Xuanzong. The master had hidden his work behind a screen, so only the emperor would see it. For a long while, the emperor admired the wonderful scene, discovering forests, high mountains, waterfalls, clouds floating in an immense sky, men on hilly paths, birds in flight. "Look, sire," said the painter, "in this cave at the foot of the mountain dwells a spirit." The painter clapped his hands and the entrance of the cave opened. The inside is splendid, beyond anything words can convey. "Please let me show your majesty the way." So, we stop here. So, this was a beautiful painting done by this painter, and it had mountains, rivers, valleys, birds, clouds, everything, landscape. And at the end of the mountains, there was a cave. He wanted the king to admire that, look at the spiritual or the philosophical angle of the painting. So, he invited the emperor to join him to explore the cave. The painter entered the cave, but the entrance closed behind him, and before the astonished emperor could move or utter a word, the painting had vanished from the wall, along with the painter. Not a trace of Wu. There was no trace of his brush. The artist was never seen again in this world. Now, this sounds rather unbelievable and humanly impossible, doesn't it? When you hear such stories, you can't believe them because we don't see such things happening around us. But you see, our stories, oral literature, they are full of such stories. The cave opened, the person went inside and never came back. Such stories are there. The writer's aim here is not to speak of the fantasy, but instead to illustrate how China's classical education used anecdotes to emphasize deeper meanings. Now here they have used an anecdote. Anecdote, please underline the word. Try to gather the meaning of the word anecdote. We will discuss about it at a later stage, but try to gather the meaning. So what is an anecdote? Have you been able to find out? Yes, anecdote is a short, often amusing, interesting story about an event, usually involving a particular person. So here in this anecdote, who was there? The painter, Wu Daozi, and the event was about a painting. There was a cave in the painting. The painter went inside, and the painting and the painter, they both vanished from there. Just anecdote. Now writings by Confucius and Zhuangzi are in fact full of them. Such stories help masters guide their disciples in the right direction. Now you must be wondering, what is the right direction? That you explore the truth. Try to find out what must have happened. That is why we too must try and discover the deeper revelation behind this story. Now what could this be? Firstly, Eastern art, including that of India. We also belong to this part of the world. Eastern art is philosophical. That is the first point. Secondly, true masters of an art form can help you experience art in its entirety. So you have to become a true disciple to learn any art form. You must have observed, you must have seen that, whether it is music, art or dance, you have to have a guru, a teacher to show you the art form, to tell you how to understand it philosophically, metaphorically, emotionally and also at the physical plane. Now thirdly, one can only grasp the true essence of an artwork, that is, lose one's self in its beauty and understand its true meaning when one approaches it with one's heart and soul. That is important. If your heart and soul is in the task that you are doing, you will do it very well. Therefore, all the persons, all the people who are deeply involved with art, culture, music, dance, they put their heart and soul into it. The author then moves on to another story. So this is the first part of the story. This is on page 34 and 35. Now we move on to the second part of the story. Now there is a contrast over here. The author contrasts with the tale about the painter disappearing into their work. She speaks of another Chinese painter who wouldn't draw the eyes of a dragon who had painted with great flourish, fearing that it would fly out of the painting. Imagine, the eye of the dragon was not painted because the painter was afraid that the dragon would go out of the painting. However, the two stories actually convey a common idea, perspective of the viewer that determines the experience of a work of art. The various angles, aspects, textures and lifelike appeal of a piece can all be understood or missed depending on how you look at it. Please look at the words understood or missed. You will understand it thoroughly if you look at it from all aspects. Now, aspects can be texture, colors, the scene, the depth, all these things. But if you only look at it, then probably you will miss out on the real spirit of the work. Now, moved by these examples, the author then recounts an old tale from her native Flanders. Please underline the word Flanders and try to find out the place where it belongs. We will discuss about it. According to her, this story that we shall now discuss is what she finds most representative of Western paintings. Till now we were talking about the Eastern paintings, now we are talking about the Western painting. But before I proceed, I want to ask you if you have heard about Flanders before. I learned about it when I saw a map of Europe. This is how we find out. Flanders is a region in the country of Belgium, and in this region a majority of the inhabitants speak Dutch or Flemish. If you can access a map of Belgium, you too can try and locate the place. As per the author, in 15th century Antwerp, a master blacksmith called Quentin Metzys fell in love with an accomplished painter's daughter. The father would not accept a son-in-law who was in different profession. One day, Quentin sneaked into the painter's studio and made a fly on his latest panel. Panel, underline the word panel. You need to understand what a panel is. With such delicate realism that when the master tried to swat it away, he realized it was a painting. So, therefore, the painting was lifelike. Even the accomplished painter himself could not really find the difference between the painting and the real fly. Now, Quentin was immediately admitted as an apprentice into his studio. He married his beloved and went on to become one of the most famous painters of his age. I hope this part is clear. The author has beautifully drawn the comparison between two types of paintings, the Eastern paintings and the Western paintings. Now, let us discuss a few questions and then I will move on to the next part of the chapter. What do these two stories illustrate? What do they illustrate? The Western and Eastern schools of painting regard artistic accomplishment very differently. Their approach to painting is different. You must have appreciated that. The approach of the Eastern painter was different and the approach of this painter is different. A perfect illusionistic likeness is admired in Europe. Illusionistic likeness is admired in Europe, and the essence of inner life and spirit is celebrated in Asia. So, you see the difference? See, in Western painting, the likeness, it should look exactly the same, whereas in the Eastern painting, it was the spirit of the painting that was more important. We can infer this from the text with the help of the phrases used in the text: delicate realism and illusionistic likeness. Delicate realism, what do we understand by this? It refers to the appealing quality of the art which makes it look real. It is not abstract at all. Here we can cite the example of the fly. Illusionistic likeness, it refers to the technique of using pictorial methods in order to deceive the eye. The reference is to an illusion created by the resemblance of something. In the Chinese story, the emperor commissions a painting and appreciates its outer appearance. You know, the emperor was looking at the mountains, rivers, trees, people, birds, animals, but he was not able to understand or appreciate the soul of the painting. But the artist reveals to him the true meaning of his work. The emperor may rule over the territory he has conquered, but only the artist knows the way within. Therefore, the artist says, "Let me show the way." Also, Dao is a Chinese word that means both the path or the method. He wanted to share his method with the emperor and the mysterious workings of the universe. Do you think this universe is simple? There are so many things that we still don't understand. Our scientists are still trying to understand this universe. Lot of research is going on. So, this universe is even now beyond our understanding. We can understand whatever is there in front of our eyes. Let's come back to the lesson. The painting may be gone, but the artist has reached his goal, which is to go beyond any material appearance. So, here it means that the artist has gone beyond the material appearances. But the emperor is only looking at the material things. The author draws attention to the difference between a classical Chinese landscape and Western figurative painting. A classical Chinese landscape is not meant to reproduce an actual view. The Chinese painter does impose a singular viewpoint. You are not expected to see what the painter's eyes see, but instead you are invited to enter their mind. The landscape is an inner one, a spiritual and conceptual space. Now, every person is free to interpret it, understand it the way they perceive it. Every person's perspective is important over here. So, here lies the difference. The artist creates a path for your eyes to travel up and down and then back again in a leisurely movement. You can enter the landscape from any point and then freely travel in it. I want you to read the lesson on your own. When you read your lesson and if you come across any difficult word, please refer to your dictionary. Understand the meaning in the context of the chapter. Read it carefully, enjoy reading, and I'll continue with the second part of this lesson in the next session. Till then, happy reading, happy learning. Thank you.